Season 2 of The Mandalorian is fantastic, and I don't think I'm hurting anybody's feelings when I say that. Now, I wasn't around on this platform when the first season came out, but I enjoyed it. It was nothing too special, and I haven't really thought about it ever since I watched it, but I must say I enjoyed Season 2 a lot more. It's a great season of television, but of course it's not perfect. It has its flaws, and we're gonna talk about all of it. Originally, I was going to do a system where I say a positive and then a negative and a positive and then a negative and so forth, but obviously I can't. There are a lot more positives than negatives. So instead I'm just gonna talk about the positives first and then get into the things I didn't enjoy. If you enjoyed this video, please do leave a like, it sure helps out the channel. And also while you're at it, join my Discord server. We've just added a brand new ranking system, so the more you participate in the discussions, the cooler you'll be. A link is down in the description and in the comments. Anyways, let's just get into it. Let's talk about the good and the bad of The Mandalorian Season 2. Now, The Mandalorian is one of the most artistic pieces of Star Wars media we have, and I know that's a very vague and confusing word, because all film is art. But what I mean is that this series really focuses on succeeding at the more objective and technical aspects of filmmaking, which it mostly does, especially Season 2. The cinematography is very solid. There are quite a lot of shots of just scenery and environment, and honestly it doesn't even get boring to look at. This season is definitely pretty. The music and sound design is spot on, which is typical for anything related to Star Wars. But still, of course Mando's theme is great and iconic, but the Dark Trooper theme was honestly a highlight for me. There was just multiple times while watching this season where I had to stop and appreciate the soundtrack. The acting is also quite solid. No standout performances, but everyone convincingly portrayed all the subtlety and all the complexity in their characters to a high standard. The pacing is good and the editing doesn't fall short either. The action scenes are well choreographed and exciting, even though there isn't much satisfying payoff to the action, but we'll get to that in just a bit. The action is still fun to watch. Overall, this season is technically really impressive. There isn't much I would complain about. It's a well-made season that does play things very safe, but the attention to detail can't be denied. Objectively, this season succeeds at a lot of the nitty-gritty filmmaking techniques, but the question is, how is the writing? Now, it's pretty easy to see that this show is character-driven rather than plot-driven. Essentially, the story focuses more on the characters and their development rather than the plot. It's the characters who drive the story forward, and it often makes stories more intimate, which again, given the mostly detached and one-off episodes, makes sense. It's really the characters and their stories that we care about, not the overarching story, which is actually really refreshing. All of the mainline Star Wars movies are very plot-centered, and that's where these spin-offs come in, like the Clone Wars, Rogue One, Solo, and of course The Mandalorian. Again, it's refreshing. And listen, being character-driven doesn't just automatically make you good. It's very technical and very hard to do, which adds more significance when I say that The Mandalorian has really good character development, especially for Mando and Baby Yoda. Mando now doesn't go anywhere without his child, which shows a difference in attitude from the first season. We see how Mando interacts with all the other Mandalorians on the water planet, and it's really fun to watch him trying to act like he knows what's going on, but in all honesty being really confused and amazed at how well the others are working together. He's kinda cute. Baby Yoda also becomes more of a character rather than just an adorable plot device. First of all, he gets a name, Grogu. He's not Baby Yoda anymore, people. We also learn about his past and how he escaped Order 66, which brings a little bit of backstory to his character. Not a lot though, hopefully we get a little bit more later down the line, but it's enough for now. He even has some actions that are driven by emotions, for example calling out throughout the Force and finally opening up to the Force after all this time. And then of course we see the bond that he has with Mando, and this leads to a lot of great moments from Mando himself. Like for example, taking off his helmet because Grogu is in danger, and it doesn't matter one bit if taking off his helmet is against everything he's ever believed in, because if it means saving Grogu, then he doesn't care. And finally we have the ending where Mando is saying goodbye to Grogu and shows him his face. It was a surprisingly emotional scene that almost brought a tear to my eye. It's one of the only true heartfelt moments in the series and really solidified this season as fantastic. However, beyond just Mando, even the side that characters have good character moments. We see Boba Fett having humanity and helping Mando rescue Grogu, which is more characterization than he had in the entire original trilogy. The bald guy Mayfeld is surprisingly complex and was really the standout character in episode 7. The fish lady doing anything to protect her babies, picking up a gun even though she's shaken in fear, is also a good moment. Then we have the Tusken Raiders being people with real motives and traits, not just animals. Then we have Ahsoka Tano being a great character once again, showing her hesitation to train Grogu because of what happened to Anakin. Honestly, the character development in this season is very subtle, but that's what I like about it. The characters aren't over the top or flashy, they feel real, and honestly it's the reason I'm somewhat invested in the show, which is why it pains me to say that this show is kinda forgettable. Even now, after having just watched the season, there aren't many moments that left a significant impact on me. I full-on just don't remember what happened in some of the episodes. This is because of what I like to call a video game structure. This show doesn't have a clear overarching story. Season 2 definitely has more than Season 1. After all, the season is about Mando getting Grogu to a Jedi. However, many of the episodes still feel detached from each other. The opening episode on Tatooine, the episode with the fish lady, the siege episode, they're all decent and fun stories on their own, but they just don't feel connected to the overarching story. When looking back at the season, you just don't remember them. This is why I call it a video game structure, because in a video game there is often a main story that you take part in, but it always takes you a long time to complete because it gets dragged out with fun but disconnected levels, side missions, exploring, and contracts. This works in video games because it's your own experience. You are personally a part of everything that happens, which is why it doesn't work as well in film. We're not personally there with Mando on Navarro. We don't have an effect on the plot, which is why these episodes are fun to watch, but fail at creating a lasting effect on us. The episodes that do feel connected are great, and I still remember them quite well, but this season is a little bit forgettable. And another reason for that might be the lack of intensity. There is not a lot of consequence in this season. The characters very often put themselves into tight and dangerous situations, or that's at least what we're led to believe. There is no threat in most of the action scenes. Like for example, when Mando and Mayfeld infiltrate the Imperial base. They have to be all careful and sneaky to not get caught, and we get some really great moments, but all this carefulness doesn't matter because they just end up shooting their way out of the place with no real difficulty. The most suspense I felt throughout this entire season was when Grogu was eating the fish eggs. I didn't want the poor lady to have her eggs eaten. Fuck me, I was invested in that. No, but in all honesty, the action in this season, although being entertaining and fun to watch, falls really short to how easy it is to predict. Because yes, this season is very predictable. There were two things I didn't see coming. Two, and those were Boba Fett and Luke Skywalker. Don't worry, we'll talk about him in just a bit. I was not expecting them to show up. Those were nice surprises, but basically everything else was not that hard to see coming. The fight scenes all ended the same way. The person we thought would win won. Most of the time the action went like this. Oh no, big threat, how are we gonna fix this? The protagonist then struggles and an epic fight happens, and then the protagonist either just wins or gets saved by someone else. Obviously it's not every scene that ends like this, but it's way more common than what I would have liked. It just feels like there aren't any real stakes in the season. No major character dies. No character that's in danger feels like they're in any danger at all. When Grogu gets kidnapped, I was actually trying to predict what the finale would do. I thought it would really surprise me with some big twist or character death, but no, it ended just like I expected, with the Jedi that Grogu had called for coming to save the day. Now I did think it was going to be Cal Kestis, but it being Luke was a pleasant surprise. Luke appearing and being a badass made me really happy. He looked weird, let's not kid ourselves, he looked like a very entry-level deep fake. But so what? I didn't really care much. His face wasn't even on screen for that long, but his presence was powerful. As a fan of The Last Jedi, I love this inclusion. I think it's going to satisfy many of the people who felt disappointed with Luke's portrayal in The Last Jedi, because even though his role in that movie is wonderful, it doesn't show him at his prime. It made me happy as a Star Wars fan, but it also gives me hope for the future, because in future seasons of the show, we might get some much needed background information on Luke's Jedi Order. There are so many possibilities to get us even more invested in Luke's story in the sequel trilogy, expand on the rise and fall of Luke's Order, and I think the fight between sequel lovers and haters will die down a lot. These spin-off stories have a lot of potential to bind the Star Wars fandom together again. So, despite the general lack of intensity and surprise in the season, Luke showing up at the end made me feel warm inside. Overall, I enjoyed season 2 of The Mandalorian very much. And listen, I'm sorry that I've talked negatively about this season in such a harsh manner, but I have to be fair. For everything this season does well, which is a lot, it's very well made television, it just doesn't have enough creativity and depth in the writing to be considered a top tier show. Visually, it's up there. It's very technically impressive. It's a solid season that kept me mostly engaged all the way throughout with interesting individual stories and the occasional big picture. However, it falls short of being great due to the lack of creativity in the writing. It just doesn't get you emotionally invested enough. But I'm alright with that. As a Star Wars fan, I'm glad they're playing it safe and making a TV show that any fan can enjoy. It's not my favorite TV show of all time, and it's nowhere near my least favorite. It's a good show. If you like Star Wars or just the action-adventure genre in general, then yeah, you're gonna enjoy it a lot. If you don't like Star Wars, then you probably won't care. There's just not enough in this show for me to recommend it to a non-Star Wars fan. But overall, I'd give The Mandalorian Season 2 a 6.5 out of 10. Anyways, I hope you all enjoyed this review of The Mandalorian Season 2. Do you agree with my opinions, or do you think I'm a piece of trash? Tell me down in the comments. Like and subscribe for more content like this, and again, join my Discord, the link is down there somewhere. Other than that, I hope you all have a wonderful day, stay safe, and peace out.